You ever wonder how an ancient text can feel like it's speaking directly to us right now? Well, today we're going to do a deep dive into that very idea. We're unpacking a really powerful contemporary commentary on just a single verse, verse 35 of Surah Maryam, to see what it has to say about divine guidance, our own reason, and even the nature of reality itself.
So here's the game plan for our journey through this text. First, we're going to tackle the nature of guidance itself. Then we'll look at what the source calls the two wings of faith, fear and hope. After that, we'll jump into that classic debate between reason and revelation. And finally, we'll push the boundaries a bit and talk about the world beyond what we can physically see and touch.
Okay, so just to be super clear from the get-go, everything we're about to discuss is coming straight out of this one specific commentary. We're not just throwing around general ideas. We are laser-focused on unpacking this particular interpretation to really see what it offers. All right, let's dive right into our first big topic: the nature of guidance. The commentary we're looking at puts a huge amount of weight on this, and it all starts with one very specific, very important Arabic term.
And that term is hidayah. Now, you'll often see this translated simply as guidance, but honestly, that doesn't even begin to cover it. In this context, it means a complete, all-encompassing divine direction that touches every single part of existence, from a tiny atom to the most complicated choice a human can make.
So that begs the obvious question, right? Is this hidayah, this guidance, just one big monolithic thing? Or does it come in, well, different flavors? And this is the critical distinction the commentary makes. It splits it into two types. On one hand, you have hidayah takwini, which is innate guidance. Think of it like the universe's pre-installed software. It's the instinct that tells a bee how to find nectar, or a plant to grow towards the sun. It's just built in. But then there's hidayah tashri'i, or legislative guidance. This one is different. It's for beings like us, beings who have free will. This is an instinct. It's revealed knowledge, the kind delivered through prophets and scriptures to help us make the right choices.
So, let's move on to our second section and see how this all connects. We get the concept of guidance, but what about the person receiving that guidance? Well, the text zooms in on the internal dynamic, specifically on two really powerful emotions, fear and hope.
And the source uses this absolutely beautiful metaphor. It says that fear, or khauf, and hope, or raja, aren't enemies fighting each other. No, they're the two wings of a believer. You need both of them, working in perfect balance to actually get off the ground spiritually. I mean, try flying with just one wing. You're just going to go in circles, right? So what does that look like in the real world? The text breaks it down pretty clearly. Fear is what keeps your ego in check. It stops you from getting arrogant or complacent. On the flip side, hope is the engine. It's what keeps you from falling into despair when you mess up, and it pushes you to keep trying. And the commentary is crystal clear. The real secret sauce, the key to making any actual progress, is finding that equilibrium right in the middle. Of course, I know what you're thinking. Balance fear and hope. Yeah, sounds great in theory, but how on earth do you actually do that with emotions this strong? Well, the source gets a little more granular. It points out that when we say fear, we're not just talking about one thing. There are two kinds. First, there's the fear of divine justice. An awareness that actions have consequences. But then there's a second, more internal kind of fear. The fear of your own limitations, that humbling feeling that maybe you're not living up to who you could be. And in this view, both of these are seen as healthy, even necessary. This brings us to our third major section. And folks, this is a big one. It's a topic people have debated for centuries. What is the role of the human mind, our intellect, in all of this? So let's just put the question right out there, the one that always comes up. Is faith the opposite of reason? Do you have to, check your brain at the door to believe? According to this commentary, the answer is a huge, emphatic no. Reason, or aql, isn't the enemy of faith. It's actually the foundation. The text presents our intellect as a critical, God-given tool that we are meant to use to engage with and unlock the meaning of revelation. So what's its job description exactly? Well, the source lays out a few key functions. Our intellect is what allows us to see the signs of a creator in the world around us. It's what helps us understand the why behind the divine laws, so we're not just following them blindly. It's our main tool for telling right from wrong. And here's the key. In this view, revelation doesn't cancel out reason. It builds right on top of it. And that idea of a foundation leads us perfectly into our final section. Because if reason has a job, it also has its limits. So what happens when we reach the edge of what our senses and our intellect can measure?
That's where a different way of knowing comes into play.
To really get this, we need one more crucial term from the text, ghaib. This word refers to the unseen. We're talking about all the realities that exist but are just fundamentally beyond what our five senses or any scientific instrument we could ever build can detect. Now, this is where the commentary draws a very sharp line. It's not anti-science in the slightest. It just argues that science is an incredibly powerful tool for understanding the material world, and that's its domain. As you can see here, its conclusions are based on probability, not absolute certainty. It simply doesn't have the tools to talk about spiritual realities. And as we all know, scientific understanding is always evolving as we get new information.
So the whole argument really boils down to this side-by-side comparison. On the left, you have empirical knowledge. It comes from our senses and experiments. Its scope is the physical world, and its conclusions can always be revised. But on the right, you have revealed knowledge, or wahi. Its source is considered divine. Its scope covers both the physical world and the unseen, and its truths are presented as absolute and unchanging. The text argues that to get a complete picture of reality, you really need both.
And this brings us to one final big question that ties everything together. If we have guidance from our instincts, guidance from our own rational minds, and guidance from revelation, how in the world do we weave all of that together? And when we do, how can we ever really feel confident that we're truly on the right path? That's the challenge and the final thought that this commentary leaves us with.